Alright everybody, welcome to the Oblivion mod special pretty much for the 1 year anniversary of the Xilestar YouTube channel. It is I, Xilestar. And today we're going to go through each and every different version of my mod, specifically of each and every version, starting from the very first to the sort of current version that we're all familiar with. Now, of course, the first thing that I want to mention is that the current version that I am using is very, very different than the one that I built, or the one that I made a long time ago, pretty much. So there is a huge, huge difference. So the very first version, I do not have, unfortunately. This was before I think I kind of kept each and every version of my mod. So unfortunately, I can't really say too much about what it had, but I could pretty much show off as much as I can from old images of when I was trying to get it to be working perfectly fine. So as you will see, the first image, as you can see, is a door within the Anvil sort of in the city of Anvil. I had implemented a door on the wall of the Anvil Mages Guild, and there was a weird thing with doors that I did not know, and now that I do, I would probably end up not doing this in the first place. But when you try to shrink a door, it's like cropping a photo for some reason, where, like, if you sort of make it go down, it keeps its position in the same spot for some odd reason. Instead of like sort of updating it as the size goes down, it just keeps it in the same spot. So the weird thing is that, like, if you enter towards the sides here, you would be able to get into this sort of like base rather than just going through the handle, which is where I think I have this targeted. Yeah, like, you don't see that it says like open door to wherever. It just says like, hey, by the way, yeah, you're trying to enter it, but you can't actually do it. And then this second image right here is actually inside, which I pretty much went extremely lazy, grabbed the Imperial City House and just copied and pasted it here, kind of thing, and just said, here you go. There is one big difference though, and that is that I actually added a alien reliquary to the top area over here, because in the normal sort of Imperial City house kind of thing, this is pretty much where like there's nothing here. Like, it seems like you could have put like a secret area over here, like a secret chest or like a secret like food item or whatever up here, but it's fine. And now let's actually go into Oblivion and see the other such items as well. So I'm going to be right back once we're in there. Alright, now that we are actually inside of Oblivion, just going to double check something. Okay. So it still worked with that kind of stuff. Okay. So this is pretty much the second version of the mod, where I sort of went a little bit more towards like everything sort of thing. So I ended up changing the sort of entrance. So instead of having the door on the Mages Guild, so I think it's around here. Yeah, it was like right around here. I changed it to that Mages Guild portal that's over there. And with that, it became a lot easier for you to interact with it, because you could literally just click on top of it and you'd be able to get in. And then in Arstonia, Isle of Heroes. Now there's a few things about this location that might look familiar in case you were familiar with that mod. This is actually the mod, or this castle is not actually something that I've created. This is actually Castle High Rock, another mod that's on the Nexus that I was able to copy over into this sort of its own world space. Now, of course, this island is one of the old sort of versions that I had, where I kind of made it actually either terrain rather than rocks, which if I were to kind of come back into this and actually want to go and end up doing anything differently, I'd actually make this into rocks, because I think it's a very cool idea. I actually really like the fact that it's all rocks rather than just this terrain. So I'm going to show off what I changed in Castle High Rock, rather than just going through Castle High Rock and going like, oh yeah, this is this is the sort of kitchen area and all that such stuff. So we're going to go in, and we're going to go click on this door, because there should be two things over here. One is this little tablet thing over here, which will remove all vanilla spells. That's the normal thing. And then over here, we have a secret room. I also renamed Castle High Rock to Castle Trilesia for my own amusement, pretty much. And over here, we also have every item in the game. This is originally what I ended up doing with it all, rather than just doing anything else. And I think, yeah, the door is bugged in here. That's fine. We can just load the save, and we'll be back. Alright. And another thing I ended up doing was, this is the basement. Yeah. So in the basement has a few items that are different in here. Let's go down here. And over here we have two things. One, we have the duplication altar, which is just a normal necromancer altar. Then we have the tablet here, which will take any item in here and will duplicate it. Now, it's a relatively simple command. Pretty much all it really does is this. Sorry. I keep spacing it out because I want to actually show it off. And then you go 0B004537 and you just click that. So I'll show you how it works. So if I just go and let's say add this. Actually, I don't think enchanted items work really well unless it's fully enchanted, like it's fully done. So let's go for Curse. Okay, so we have one in here. So let's do this, and you'll see that there's two. That's because what this tablet actually does is it does it through the construction set of doing this exact thing. Now how it works is that what it does is it duplicates all item and it grabs its editor ID. I think I have it as this. So instead, it kind of does it this way. Now we can't do it because, we can't do it in game because it doesn't register its editor ID. It registers as its base ID, which is what we're currently seeing here. And that's why this is like that, pretty much. This actually gave me a few issues before. So I copied the script specifically just so that when you leave the sewers, so when you leave the sewers, the command that happens whenever you try to exit it, it's like, oh, would you like to change anything else or leave the sewers? I just got rid of the leave the sewers part and tried to get everything else to work. The problem is that the first thing that I had a problem with was that whenever you try to enter the area, about here-ish, I think. It was here, I don't know. It was like, I don't remember too much about it. But it was around this area over here where you'd get spammed with a message that would have like, oh, would you like to edit your class, race, or birth sign, and then or close. And then if you click close, it would reset over and over again. And it was the way that I had it like sort of listed as. But now that it's all fixed, now if you do it and you click exit or you click edit race, it doesn't constantly spam you with it. So let's go to the other area. So there's two areas actually that I need to sort of work with. I know the fast way of getting there, so let's go do that real quick. Bunch of loading screens. That's why I kind of like the new base now, because it's only like 2 loading screens rather than just having like 18 different ones. So I like Castle Hydra because it was big and I could end up adding a lot of functions to it. But then later on, I realized that that's sort of not really a good idea anyway. So there's these items. And yeah, this is back when I made setted items. Okay. Do you have the items that I'm... No, so it's in here then. Yeah, okay. or nothing. Yeah, that was it. Okay. Yeah, so I was in sort of. Oh yeah, the is he here? Is this the version or is this not the version? It's not the version. Oh no, it is. Yeah, King Krabby. Okay, so I ended up having a weird glitch happen to me when I was playing Oblivion. So right around the Anvil Dock area, I wonder if I can see it. So right around this area, I had a mud crab sort of try and like it got aggroed on me. And what I did is I put in the command to move to player, and it made the mud crab like docile. Like it didn't even attack anybody. And then like after like I could even like wait, and it was really cool. And then later on, an NPC walked up and sort of alerted him, or sort of got scared by him, went mud crab, and then started punching him. And then the guard that was randomly at the gate decided to go, oh, that's a mud crab, and started charging and killing him, and it was really sad. So I decided to bring him into here as a companion. Okay. So back in the old times, I wanted to create new, like, sort of setted items. So pretty much during the beginning portion of it, I created some ones. I'm going to go by, like, which ones came out, like as early as possible. I know that I think the first three, it's the other ones that are sort of like, I kind of lost track after that. So the first ever set that I ended up creating was Drax's Longsword. Was the Drax set. Now, I'll go off and say which mods that these actually came out of. But for the most part, a lot of these have come from, so a lot of these have come from the Apophis Armory of the Silver Dragon for the amulet and the rings, so I'm not going to talk about them. But the mask came from Apophis. The cloak, right? Is it cloak? Yeah, because I didn't change too much of it. The cloak actually comes from the Capes and Cloaks mod, and the armor comes from the Dragon Knight Armory, I think that's correct, or Drake Knight and Armor weapons, I think. And the sword actually comes from the well, I got it from the mod known as the Dungeons of Ivalon, so there's that. So this was the very first set, so I pretty much tried to make it as sort of not destructive, but just sort of like it has its own sort of unique personality. But I think that because Drax was the first one, the unique sort of personality thing kind of went out the window, because like it was the first one, and I was like, okay, what would be a cool combination of spells here? And then I came up with this. And then I sort of went through a bunch of mods, and I went, wow, this set's actually pretty cool. But you know what? You know what I'm lacking? I'm lacking in the sort of damage department. So I ended up recreating a different person, and I ended up making my Dremor set. And this actually wasn't the original style of what the Dremor set actually looked like. Oh, interesting. Huh, okay. That's kind of interesting. Okay, let's get rid of that then. Okay, so you'll notice that the shields are broken. This is because when a shield counts as clothing, it has like sort of a 50-50 chance of actually working like a shield, or like you have the same animations as a shield, but it's pretty much normal. So all the swords are the same, minus that some of them have different sort of like magnitudes and duration. Like you can tell between the difference between these two, that the difference is the absorption is slightly weaker on Dremor's sword, but that's fine. And then of course we also have all of Dremor's sort of like spells. So you see that he's more destructive in nature, and this is the birth of the Cursed Hand spell. So this was the first one that actually had it, and I thought it was a really cool idea. So pretty much anybody who gets hit with this, I think this is the more broken version. Yeah, it's 20 seconds. That I think nowadays I have it as 10, where you're now weak to pretty much everything minus fire, frost, and shock, which you're actually quad weak to, because if it's magic based, you actually take 4 times damage rather than 2 times damage. And here's his stuff. And I think this is when I started actually throwing Cure Disease on the heal itself and made invisibility sort of like something else as well. And this is pretty much it. This armor actually had a different look to it, which is what we are currently using as our sort of like Dark King's armor sort of set, which we'll see again later on, because I really liked it. The hood, right, it's a hood, it's not like it's attached to anything. Yeah, the hood and the mask come from the Apophis, and so is the shield. Comes from the Apophis Armory of the Silver Dragon, and the armor itself comes from a haunted house mod. I forget if it actually has its own sort of like name that differentiates it between like other haunted house mods, but I know it's a quest mod. Then shortly after this one, I created a different set. I created Kel Knight's set, which is right here. I created this one, and then slowly after this is where I sort of forget how the build order sort of works out as. So yeah, after this, I'm pretty much in the dark as well. So with something else I wanted to mention. I ended up testing to see if Dremor was stronger than Drax, and by far it was. Drax was like severely weak against the Dremor set, which was kind of funny though, because the more destructive set beats everything else. But it was also kind of funny though, because the way that I actually ended up making the Dremor set is that as soon as you get a strike off on the Drax set, you win. Doesn't really matter. Cursed Hand, use any of the spells, you pretty much win the game. But I also tried to pit the Dremor set against itself, and something kind of interesting happens whenever the AI sort of gets a hold of it. So if you go and try and fight it, it tries to use the invisibility spell that's on it immediately. So if you actually go use that paralyzing shock spell, and you hit the Dremor sort of AI with it, it just sort of just does its own little thing, and it goes, oh, okay, well, I want to sort of do this now. And then it sort of just gets paralyzed with it. So it tries to use the invisibility spell, you paralyze it, and then it gets stuck there. Then you just hit whatever, and then it just dies. And the AI will always use invisibility over anything else. This is also noticeable when the Drax armor is in play as well. So yeah, so this is the Kel Knight set. Everything that you're currently seeing has come from one mod, and that is the TDA Armory, I think is what it's called. I can be wrong on that. And pretty much, yeah, so if you use this spell, it pretty much just stuns everybody. Yeah, so Kel Knight's more so about boosting himself, pretty much. So that's why you'll see like his is a lot more of like the sort of boosting nature kind of thing. So yeah. Then as I said, after this kind of thing, it gets kind of into a blur of which ones I did next. So let's start off with Derek first. And then we'll kind of work our way down. So Derek's armor doesn't actually have a purpose specifically. Because originally what one of my plans was going to be was that the only way that somebody could actually get these like sort of sets of armor and weapons were that you have to go into an arena, you have to face the character that originally wears the armor, and then after the fight is over, you would go back to the area and you would have a reward chest, and what that reward chest would do was that it would give you the armor. that they currently wear. So I got this armor from the Dungeons of Ivlon. The sword has come from, I think it's Heaven's Fury, I think? Or it's between one of the two mods that has, like, Heaven's Fury in it. And Derek is one of the weaker ones, which is he would be considered, he would be considered one of the weaker ones. Because his abilities aren't really too, sort of, like, strong. Except for this is actually not supposed to have Restore Magic Up, but it's fine. Yeah, and then I ended up adding the Invisible Cloak to actually end up having Restore Magic Up. Yeah, that was an old time. I think each and every one of them has sort of a Skeleton Key open spell. And they all have a greater power. That's either this, or I think there's two other ones that might be surfacing around kind of thing. But that's pretty much all of theirs. The next one after that in this entire thing, I'm going to keep this one last. Because that was sort of the last thing that I implemented. And you'll soon know why. Okay, so drum set is again one of the weaker ones, but more so towards that like sort of evil sort of alignment kind of thing. So I thought it would look kind of cool. So I don't remember exactly where the weapon comes from, but I think the armor comes from the Dreadweave armor. Specifically, I forget which version though, because I think there's like 30 different versions of it. But yes, this one's one of the weaker ones, as you can probably tell from this. Oh yeah, Derek's will also be the same. Because they both have the sort of the same sort of... Actually, Derek might be slightly stronger. Yeah, Derek is slightly stronger. But this one's definitely one of the definite weaker ones. But I think Derek is one of the stronger, weaker ones. But he's weaker by comparison because he doesn't have as much advanced spells, pretty much. Drum spells pretty much are not really that, well, powerful, as you'll see. I think the only thing he's really powerful is just calming other people down, but I think that's pretty much it. And here's the other one that's running around where it has like resist normal weapons on top of everything. This, I think Derek's had the heal portion of it. This one doesn't have the heal, it just has resist normal weapons. And then everything else is identical. So this is pretty much what Derek's heal is supposed to be, except for minus the cure disease and make the health and fatigue lower, of course. But yeah, that's pretty much what his was supposed to be. And there you go. Okay. So this one's drawn, so let's go to the next one. Okay, let's go to the next one. So we're going to go to, looks like Kurok. All right, so this one's going to be pretty easy to tell you guys exactly where it comes from. This one, of course, literally every item that's on this armor set literally comes from the Apophis Army of the Silver Dragon. Like, there's nothing really too much, like to kind of hide from it. Like, it's kind of obvious that it's from it, because, well, I think, yeah, because as soon as you see this, you know it's from that mod anyway. So Kurok was more of the necromancer kind of character that I ended up, or not character, but sort of the necromancer kind of set that I ended up creating. Although, oh, there's 4 of them running around because this one doesn't have anything else. Okay, that's interesting. And the heal, of course, and then the invisibility, and then of course he has the dark gift, which is a weaker version of the cursed hand. This is more so like a more normal kind of thing to have, but it's fine. And you have reanimation and a support hand, so you can support his reanimations and sort of his normal spells and such. There you go. Alright, so the next one is Corin's. So this one has a very unique thing going for it. I do not remember where the weapon actually comes from in terms of the mod. I think it's just a like sort of a mod that like adds extra steel weapons into the game, or steel looking weapons. And I thought, hey, this one looks kind of perfect for Corin's. So I decided to go for it. Yeah, these ones are also weak. Judging, I'll just show the sword, and you can pretty much be the judge of like if it's strong or weak kind of thing, because it makes sort of sense. Yeah, so Corings was kind of the fun character to kind of make. He has a very unique thing. Yeah, so here's the other one. So here's Last Stand. Yeah, so he has a pretty unique thing of invisibility. Now, if you remember from the current version, there is a spell called Shadow Walk. Well, that's what this character's original sort of spell was supposed to be named, was Shadow Walk. But because it was a part of the set, I didn't want to have it so it's like Corings' heal, Corings' light, and then Shadow Walk. And it's like, like, why wouldn't it be called Corings' Shadow Walk? Which wouldn't sort of fit the sort of, like, sort of naming convention kind of thing. I wanted it to be simple and honest with what it does. So, invisibility. And then Calm Touch, and then Key, Paralyzing Shock, and then Pulse. So yeah. So pretty much what Shadow Walking is supposed to do is that it's supposed to make it so that you're completely invisible, but sort of the down portion, or the negative part of the effect, is that you slowly get weaker over time. Now, I didn't want it so it damages your fatigue or your, what's the word for it? Your attributes or skills over time, because that's just really weird to have. So I decided to just make it so though it does a little bit of damage over time for you, while also making you completely invisible overall. And I would normally go for normal invisibility, just as a normal nerf, but because of the fact that Corings can, like sort of in my headcanon kind of thing, can interact with objects, I kind of thought the Chameleon would work better because of the fact that you can still interact with objects. So yeah, so that's pretty much the Coring set. Then we have pretty much the more iconic one. Did I ever say what the armor is from? Okay, just in case I didn't, the armor actually comes from the Knights of the Nine Revelations mod. Just in case I didn't. So here's Lorelic. Everyone will probably know where the armor's kind of from. This armor comes from the Frostmourne and the Lich King's armor. And not only that, the cape comes from Apophis. Another thing is that these spells are pretty much more so geared towards long-lasting and just overall destructive in nature kind of thing. I think this one was the first one to have this sort of damage thing over time. Yeah. Either that or was the Dromore armor. Yeah, there's pretty much nothing really too much else with this. I created this one because I ended up refunding the mod of this, and I thought, hey, that would be kind of cool to implement into my mod. Just something that's like more of the Lich King kind of abilities, where he has like undead like powers, which was kind of fun to make. Then we also have Solus here, which is pretty much a paladin. There we go. Now I understand that one thing's for sure is that like Oblivion is not meant to be sort of like to support companions kind of mod or companion kind of game. But pretty much what Solus was supposed to be was he was supposed to be able to... Oh, he doesn't have a skeleton key. Interesting. But then again, he's supposed to be the support character, so I guess it kind of makes sense. He's supposed to support others kind of thing, and that's pretty much what his whole sort of like nature is supposed to be kind of thing. And then his heals, of course, and his defense or his defensive abilities kind of thing is here. And you'll see like his boost and all that stuff. Yeah. So it's pretty much like he's supposed to support others kind of thing. And then the last, but certainly not least, is Worf for this set, or for these items specifically, which is supposed to be a mage that does not like to use spells all the time, but would rather prefer to use his axe as sort of whatever. He prefers to use his axe over using spells, which is why a lot of his spells are very, very weak in nature, as you can see. and for the most part, this one was actually the least sort of interesting one. Also, for Solus's armor, before I forget, because I kind of did, Solus's armor actually comes from the Knights of the Nine Revelations mod as well, and this one comes from the Apophis Army of the Silver Dragon. So there's that. But there's one last thing I want to show off. I think it's in here, right? Oh yeah, I put a weird trigger on this, and I think the reason why it's now a weird trigger is because I kept sort of having to use the same save over and over again. So the weird thing with doors is that if you've been in, so if you load it in the cell at least once in a save, then you edit the mod and then you go back in, it remembers the old position of doors, and I think that's where that one sort of kept breaking on me. So before King Krabby ever had his sort of like scripting mechanic, I tried to get this bad boy over here to sort of work in the same way, and this has a different one where if you click on him, he will come with you if you want him to, or you can click him again and he will wait for you, kind of thing. That's sort of the whole system that was there. I wanted to quickly get something like that built specifically for King Krabby. And then, of course, we have these tablets over here, which are for testing purposes only. So the tablet of others is the normal cache, which this was the version where they were separate rather than just having one combined with three and then having just one of them separated. And then we have the instant kill spell, which I will show off, and the push other one. Yeah, apparently I grabbed Cal Knight's thing. Okay, that's fine. So we're going to grab those three, and we're going to go to the tablet of summons, and these are pretty much all of the characters. So let's go and summon in Solus for now. Alright, Solus. We need you, buddy. And if you try and like interact with them, they don't actually interact. I think the enchantment's kind of hiding his eyes for a second, which is fine. So if we use the push target one, you'll see he gets flowing across. I don't remember if it's this version or the current version that I'm using, but I ended up making the number that gets like sort of like gets flown around, like sort of like pushed around to a ridiculous number. So literally it's really hilarious just to see them ragdoll all the way like everywhere. Then we also have the destruction hand, which just immediately kills the person. So hooray. So I'll show the resurrect when we get to the current version, because it's identical and I don't really want to go and interact with the world on this save and then just sort of go back onto it. Then the last one, so all of these summon each and every character, and if you try to actually I could show that off. So if you try to summon one of these, oh, it gets rid of the other ones. Oh, that's kind of interesting. But you can easily just do this. Okay, so let's say I want to summon Derek and Drum together. Hey, you're supposed to go back. That's how you were supposed to be engineered. Okay, we'll just wait for the duration. What's supposed to happen is that when you cast the spell, the other ones are supposed to leave. But I guess what happened is that it broke itself? Or maybe this was before I implemented that change. I don't know. So the other thing is that I also have a companion that you can actually summon. So I have... so which partner? We'll summon both of them. And this was a scrapped idea, but I might revisit now that I know that you actually have to have a save that interacts with this beforehand. Hooray. Yeah, so like pretty much like they have their own sort of armor kind of thing, and they have their own weapon as well. I forgot where they're from. I think the armor's from Legend in the Sky, and I think the sword is, I think, just the Drax's sword for the most part. And what you're supposed to be able to do Oh, you can barter with them. Okay.
Only
So you
quality
can
goods
like
for sale.
sell items to them. Like when you're not in battle. So let's say I want to sell it to base or kind of thing. You can do that. Or you
What
can
can
buy
I interest you in?
spells, which I can get rid of because it doesn't really do anything. And he goes to do
Wait,
rumors, and you can also have them follow you and sort
you
of
too.
wait wherever you want. But I think this was before where I was trying to figure it all out on my own on how to do it. And something that I'm also noticing is that every time I try to interact with them, they sort of just like stop
I hope.
like interacting for a little bit. Like they stop
I
like
hope I
talking for a second. Like watch.
Bye.
Like they'll keep trying to follow me, but they're not actually following me, which is weird. Now I kind of tried to copy how a character already in the game sort of interacts. If you see the current version, not the current version, but the last session of Oblivion that I recorded, which was I think it's session 5 or 6 or something like that. You'll know which one I'm talking about. But I tried to copy his exact one, and it didn't really kind of work because every time I interact with him, they don't sort of click in like, hey, you're supposed to like move with me anytime I try to talk to you. So yeah, and of course you can also, and I also had it so it summons male and female companion, of course, so I can tell the difference between the summons, because I think I don't know. So pretty much if you summon the male partner, only Marius here will join you, and then if you do Maria, she will join you, pretty much. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much everything in this version. Nothing really too much else. So I'll see you guys for the other version of this mod. Alright, so this current version is version 3. So this one, I sort of abandoned the whole castle idea specifically for a house design. So that's why this is now named House Island. And here it is, very, very cool. Now the one thing you'll notice is that I kind of kept a little bit of the tall terrain, so once you go off, it's very difficult to get back up here. The other thing that I ended up doing is that with this, I sort of was able to get sort of a house design in here. This was before the bank. And as you can see, like all this stuff, here's the tablet summons, the tablet removal, everything else. Now, this is a very old design. Oh, I used a covered pod floor? Oh, that's kind of new to me. Yeah, and then there's all of this stuff too. Yeah, so I brought all the other old stuff in here. The Statue of Elysian, I kind of just made it smaller. And I brought these in here. So this is kind of interesting. I think I kind of briefly showed it off. But this actually gives you a master of everything. And it says the alchemic experiment. So you can literally just go and add potion ingredients. So let's go add corn. Let's go add rice. And let's go add flour. Let's go and add wheat. And you can create these. I think if this is the current version, I think I have their like their sort of magnitude or sort of their power as high as you can, the highest that you can actually end up making it. And then once you exit it, or once you're done, you can exit it, and then it gets rid of all those items from your inventory. And in this one, I think I showed it off where you can enchant an item, make a spell, or do nothing. Or you can use the more mobile version, which this was actually the very first one. You can either enchant, make spell, or before, what I had was that I was going to sort of release this as a sort of small mod kind of thing of a repair feature that actually didn't do anything. It actually had a tag after it called like repair in parentheses work in progress, or WIP, pretty much, because I was still working on it to kind of get it to work. And yeah. And then Gemini Mage's Heart. I will talk about this item specifically when we get towards the current version, because I'm going to be getting rid of this in favor of something else. But it should be fine. Okay, so we also have this formal stuff. Now, this was back during the time where I was beginning to merge items together. Oh, I forgot to show off those two things. It's fine. It's nothing really too big. It's really too glamorous. So we have this. So I ended up naming this mod Battle Butler. So pretty much it was really funny because it was Battle Butler, so it was, it was kind of funny how it all worked out, kind of thing. I'm gonna try and see if I can find those items in here. I might still have them. They just might be somewhere else. Maybe they're somewhere in here. No, that's the dragon stuff. Oh yeah, I forgot to show that off too. Yeah, I'll show that off real quick too. Yeah, so like I ended up making this set specifically just because I wanted to end up playing with just something that looked more like clothing rather than just armor in general. And then I ended up creating this set out of it, pretty much. Now this doesn't have like the best of spells. Like look at this. This is pretty weak. This is pretty weak. And you also have Conjure Armor, which is like the current version. We have Healing. We have Invisible Advance. We have Light of Service, Lightly Burdened, Summon Undead Assistant, and that's it. The Conjure Armor is just like the current version, except for this is an older script variant. So there's two different versions. So it is similar to this, but I'll show this off first before anything. So right before I ended up creating the sort of current version that we all know and love today, or maybe nobody loves it, I don't know. This was the original version of it. Now, I originally had this specifically on a different armor set. As I stated before, this was originally Dromor's armor, but I changed it in favor of, because it looked more like a Dread Knight rather than just an overall, like, I don't know, Dromor's armor. A couple things about this armor is that the first things first is that this armor comes from I originally got the armor from what was it called, Midas Magic Companions, but I know that it comes from a different mod. I think it's a Pale Rider Berserker armor variant. This weapon comes from a Morrowind weapon sort of bring in portion or alternate weapon resource pack or something like that. Not resource pack, but like a texture pack kind of thing. So it just brings in like a weapon like this that you can end up fighting in the game. I don't remember how it works. I think it just changes the textures to fit this. I forget what it's supposed to be for. But yeah, there's that. And then the shield, I have two shields. One of them is just the arm shield from Apophis, just as a different variant, just as a different sort of shielded look kind of thing. And this one actually comes from the Heart of the Dead mod. And everything else comes from Apophis, pretty much. The cool thing about this is that it sort of tries to grab every sort of, every sort of greater power or lesser power, at least that one unique variant, grab the strongest one and just mash it into one armor. So that's pretty much what this all entire is that like it's the strongest of each and every ability, minus Shadow Walk because there's only one version, and just mash it together and just call it a day. And here's the original Essence of Life sort of thing, and then all of this other stuff. And then we're of Death yet. There's Station Blast too. Interesting. Oh, it's because it didn't do the ring. Yeah. That's why, okay. Yeah, so so all this stuff, yeah. So these are all the spells. Yeah. So these are all the spells. So after I created this armor, I decided to kind of change my sort of outlook on everything in this game, or not just Oblivion in general, but just overall, like how good everything was in terms of, like it put my whole sort of perspective of sort of Oblivion into perspective on everything. That also the Claymore is just Shadowrend from Shivering Isles, as we are currently using. So with the Conjure Armor spell, it's the old version where where it actually uses these exact meshes and textures of this armor, specifically just like the current version, but instead there's a sword version which I abandoned real quick, real fast, because I always found myself, yeah, I abandoned it real quick because I wasn't using it as much as I was. I was finding myself using the Claymore version more often than the alternate version. So when I quickly found out, yeah, you'll also notice that when we revert back, we actually equip this. That's because in the script, I have it so it re-equips this set in particular, rather than just any item that you had previously equipped. If there's a way to do it, I would do it. Don't get me wrong, I would love to do it that way. I just don't know how to do it that way. There's also the Claymore version, which is currently what we're using in our modded playthrough, just as a different armor with different abilities and such. Like, if my past self would look at my current self and go, wow, like, I thought this was pretty much broken, pretty much, but nothing can compare to what we currently have right now. And that's pretty much this island in general. Yeah, because here's the summons. Here's the tablet of others, yeah. So there's that as well. The basement doesn't really have anything different. Yeah, the basement doesn't really have anything different. Like, everything is sort of identical to what it currently is, except for I think there's an extra pot over here, I think. And we have a lever that's secretly tiny lever that's down here. That leads you to this room, which has a door that leads you into the item collection room, which is still the same room, but instead of the door is now an Oblivion gate, because I thought it would look kind of cool if it was an Oblivion gate. Then you click it, and then you go back in here. And this is before I even decided on the chest area, so that's pretty much why there's no chest there. And yeah, so if you go through the Oblivion portal, the whole entire area changes into the Oblivion gate noises, pretty much. And there you go. Something else to mention is that if you fall off, you're sort of sunk. You can't get back up, no matter what. I made this specifically like hard to, I didn't really make it so though it's hard to get up on purpose. I kind of made it by accident, and it kind of just stuck with me for a little while until later on, which we will get to in a second. Alright, so just want to double check something. Okay, so it's still working, okay. So we have the third last version. So a man walked past me and incanted a spell. I was able to overhear what the man said. He said, "By the name of Arsonia, I call upon you for shelter during hard times." Maybe I should incant the same spell to see what happens. And this is pretty much the old version of how you got the spell. So the only way, so I kind of figured out how the sort of the main quest kind of thing ended up working for when you travel to Coral for the tutorial quest. Where is it? Wherever it is on this list. There we go. So for this quest, I found out how it did the trigger for over here, and that's what we currently use for the new mod for when we travel to Anvil kind of thing. And that's kind of how it worked. And it gave you the teleport spell, of course. So when we teleport to there, we'll notice a few key differences. One, the house is currently to where we currently have the current version at. So you'll see here. Two, you can actually get off the island and be able to get back on it. Another sort of lap of luxury kind of thing that's in here. And then we also have this area, which I don't think I changed much. No. But this is where I started adding in Armor Orb, which is sort of the god item of this area specifically. So Armor Orb is actually an item that I created for the sole purpose of giving myself spells at any level and at any point in time, so that I can end up having, so that when you change armors, if I had hotkey, let's say Frost Shell, and when the armor's there, it gets rid of it, I'm sort of not really happy about that. So with the armor orb, it actually gives you some spells that are really helpful, and not only that, it also gives you, yeah, like as I said, it gives you a bunch of spells that are very helpful. They're a lot weaker than sort of the armor counterparts, but it's fine. It's not like it's that broken. And then here's what it gives you, minus the 50 of Fortified Magicka. Try to figure out which one it is. And that's all it gives you. Now, I used the armor orb when I made the armor specifically. So when you conjure the armor with the armor orb, that's how all of the stats were judged by. And sort of how everything worked. So if you had, let's say, the armor orb and the armor, you would have 90 spell absorption when you were, I think it's when you were Draminated, I think, or this was the version where I changed it slightly. Maybe, I don't remember exactly. Yeah, and you, so are all you broken? Oh, there we go. So this is before I ended up fixing that. So we could take the bank with us now. Alright, we're robbing the bank. Look at it. We're taking it with us. Yeah. So each and every version, there was a bank, there's a barrel over here with different potions and such. I think the last version had it with only Potion of Life and Poison of Death. Same thing with the first, or the second version, sorry, not the first one. The second version also had something like that. Just again, it only had the Poison of Death and the Potion of Life. And one clear difference between the two as well is that I think the first two versions I didn't put a value on. This version I did. And I think this area doesn't really have too much of anything else except for it has this one now, which gives you the Allied Well sort of treatment, which is kind of interesting. And I think that's everything over here. Let's see, down here, is there anything different in here? I think this is when I started changing this area slightly. Yeah. So during the transition between the Battle Butler version and this version, I sort of just, I think you can still sort of interact with the door. Oops, not slash. TCL. Yeah. I think there's still a door here. Yeah, you just can't do anything with it. And that's kind of the point. So as you saw from that last version, there was a door here that led you to an all item room. Now that's sort of gotten abandoned because I think the last version I didn't do this where I converted all of these storages into those sort of items. As you'll see, there's a silver urn here that's misaligned. That's because I placed this here because I wanted more of a storage area down here. But as I said, I kind of wanted to convert this area into more of the mod room kind of thing. So when we finish, let's say, the Lost Spires or Knights of the Nine Revelations or, you know, anything else, we would have an item specifically from that mod on display on this sort of shelving unit. And I kind of want to put like more lights in here, but the reason why there's not a lot of lights in here, the reason why there's only these candles, and there are candles on top of this in the newer version, is because when you look at the bottom here, you see that there's only natural light coming from this room in general. But if you throw anything brighter into that small section, it sort of bleeds over here, which means that it's easy to know that there's a secret behind this barrel and you just need to find the lever for it. Now later on, I sort of abandoned having it here and putting it inside of this inside this bucket, which I then abandoned for the one that's on the wall. Now, of course, this version doesn't really have too much difference in terms of items and such, but one key difference between this version and maybe the last version, I can be wrong on this, but maybe the last version I may have implemented it, but I definitely know this version I did, so I'm going to talk about it in this version, is that while I was playing around with the Battle Butler version, or maybe it was during sort of production kind of thing, with the Battle Butler version, I was using lesser spells, going through the game, seeing if it makes the game much easier, and one thing that I noticed was that my magic school spells, so the spells you would normally have in here, weren't going up, and I was really confused by this. Like, why weren't these going up? This doesn't make any sense. Lesser powers do not count towards that sort of total. So I can literally use Healing Light here, and my restoration would never go up. I can use this Destructive Blast as many times as I want, and my destruction skill won't go up. So I had to create these spells over here. Now, first things first, I'm going to get rid of Armor Orbs so I don't get any of them confused. So if we ever do something like that and we want to increase our skills, if we're not using the mod that we're currently using in our modded playthrough, which is the Oblivion XP mod, I would use this tablet for spell training. So for alteration, we have Feather Breach. This is what it does. It just gives you Feather for 500 points for 120 seconds? 120 seconds. We also have Conjuration, which is Rebirth, which allows you to reanimate corpses at target for 120 seconds. I think this one is pretty much Staff of Worms, just as a spell. So, cool. The other one is Destruction, which is Blow Up Suspects. This pretty much creates a giant explosion. Yay. Illusion is Stop, which is just a small 2-second paralysis thing that ends up just doing random shenanigans. The last one, or the second last one, is Mysticism, which is a life detector, which means you can just see anyone from a large distance. And we also have Restoration, which is Absorb, which is just a mini absorb spell. So pretty much this is pretty much how you would get all of your sort of spell training if you were to use the armor kind of thing. And that's sort of the version that I... And so nothing would happen for a great number of times up until the current version. The current version in which that we are using in our modded playthrough as sort of our armor get-together or armor sort of gatherer kind of thing. So Forgotten Armory. So after escaping the Imperial City sewers, I remember using a spell when I needed help. If I travel to Anvil, maybe it will help me remember the spell fully. I've arrived in Anvil and I've remembered the spell. So this actually isn't the next version that was on the list. This is actually the final version. The second final version was what we used for Nehrim. Now, unfortunately, I did not keep the original Oblivion version. I think either I would have to convert it from the Nehrim back into Oblivion for me to use it. But either way, you would pretty much just watch the entire series, or just watch, I think, session 4, and you'll see like sort of how powerful that armor actually was. But that sort of ended up making me want to create this version of the mod, in which we created an even bigger version of that sort of whole sort of debate. Also, I also abandoned the sort of island treatment and went straight into having the rock treatment. So that's why down here, you'll see that the terrain is all leveled down here, and that the rocks over here actually are like everywhere. Very cool, isn't it? I also wanted at one point to make the well as the only way of you being able to get into the building, but I keep coming back to it and then abandoning it and then keep coming back to it as a way of doing it. So when you come in, it's now the current version, as you'll see. Yeah, so you'll see this stuff too. So let's go show off the Draenei Mage's Heart. So in my headcanon, I created the Draenei Mage's Heart as a way for sort of anybody that didn't have natural magic regeneration or anything to be able to get it with sort of how the Doomstones sort of operate. So if you don't know how the Doomstones operate, during 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., so pretty much when the stars are out, as they put it, you are able to get their spells. But in this case, for Dramination, it makes us incredibly strong. Oh, that's the ring. Okay, so let's go to the ring then. I didn't think the ring would actually influence anything. So this is how it normally is. Now, unfortunately, I am thinking of getting rid of most of its effects, but not for the reasons that you think. So I'm thinking of getting rid of it, but implementing it into the armor specifically on one of the sort of many ways that it has, so that when you use it, it says enchantment. So those are actually separate items. And what I'm thinking of doing is I'm going to have it so though that Draymond Mage's Heart is attached to one of those said items. There's a total number of 9 of them. So there's that as well. So that's going to be kind of how that works. And we also have the Lucky Old Lady here, which is amazing. I needed that for the modded playthrough, and I'm glad that I delivered. And of course, over here we have the normal spells. So we're going to have the Resurrect, so I can show that off. We're going to have the Instant Kill, just because. And then Tablet Removal, remove every vanilla spell. And we also have, so everything else. So I'm going to go through each and every feature in here, starting with the main floor, going our way up, and then going all the way back down to the basement area. Alright? So let's get through this. So this pretty much gives you all of the items that I've created as well. And not only that, it also gives you... no, that's right, yeah, it just gives you all the items. Now, this crate has always changed. Apparently, I used this version last, which was kind of weird. But it's funny, because I actually like this. I wish Bethesda ended up implementing this into more houses kind of thing. The cover pod, the silver urn, the clay urns and stuff like that. I really like this. It's really cool. So first off, we have the Skull Ethereum over here. When you activate it, you have 2 commands. You have Recharge, which will give you... Which what its script is supposed to... What its script does is that it gives you a Varla Stone. If you click... So if you click Recharge, what it gives you a Varla Stone. And then it makes you use a Varla Stone. But before it gives you the Varla Stone, it scans your inventory. So it scans literally how many Varla Stones you have. So let's say I have 0 Varla Stones. I think Debaser has its sort of uses. Yeah. So let's say I use Recharge. So you may have heard the sound effect. I don't have my headphones, so I'm not gonna... So I can't hear it. But you'll see that all my uses are there. But I have no Varla Stone. So there you go. So what it did is it scanned my inventory for it. It got a number of 0. And there you go. But if I were to go and click Recharge again, it doesn't do anything, because what would normally happen when you try to use a Varla Stone... I'm just going to go down here real quick for a second. Useful items. So let's go grab 3 Varla Stones for now, just to show it off. So if I try and use a Varla Stone right now, it says you have no items that need to be recharged. And now that we have 3, let's say we don't need any items to be recharged. We still have 3. Because what it does is that if you have any Varla Stones or you don't have any at all, it gives you 1 no matter what. And then what it does is it equips that item to you, which what it does is it does exactly what this would do. Right, when you click on the item, that's exactly what it does. It does the exact same thing except for it's script based. And then what it does is it scans your inventory after through a different code. Now, if there is a difference between both numbers, what it does is it removes a Varla Stone from your player, because the difference is only 1, which means that at some point you tried to sort of cheat the system by saying like, yeah, I need it, and then nope, you just got a free Varla Stone. Originally, that's how it worked, and I was like, oh, that's an easy fix, and I fixed it, of course. Now, the full restore is that it sort of does what the Alien Will does, where it makes you activate a spell that actually gives you... It actually fully heals you. So there's that. The other function in here, of course, is the bank. We've already seen this. But now I want to see if I actually... Okay, so it is, yeah. So you see that it's not moving. It's not moving. This one also had that function too, which was kind of funny. It's kind of funny seeing something very huge like this, and then seeing that you can ragdoll it like it's nothing. It's really funny. So this one's Lucky Old Lady, minus the whole extra function that it has. Remove all vanilla spells, Tablet of Others, of course. Then we also have the Tablet of Spell Training. I'll just click Remove All, just because, why not? Nothing really too much else here. I kind of want to add sort of like a meal area kind of thing over here, but I want it to be sort of like static items, so you can't really like slash and then a potato flies away kind of thing. I kind of want it so that like you have sort of a tray of food, and then that is how you sort of like you sit down here and then you can activate it. And what it does is it just says you enjoyed your meal and then you ate it, and then you get sort of whatever regenerative bonuses that it gave you. We also have the Scrolls of the Damned, which are old spells that were originally on the armor, or any of the current spells, that have their original names if they had any. Now, some of these spells, I believe, are already currently on the armor. There's a difference between a few of them where I think there was one in which I didn't add in here. Yeah, I don't think I added one, but I can easily just re-add it too. I had one specifically for Detect Life, and I think I might have removed it for something else. But that's fine, I can re-add it though. But each and every one of those spells was originally on the armor at some point in time. Now that's across all versions, of course. And then of course, that barrel that was originally here is now this one that's on this stand. And if I were to ever kind of release this mod at any point, which I don't think I will, because I do not have permissions to use these items kind of thing, but I'm only using them for my sole purpose, so it's fine. All of these chests and all these other stuff that have like sort of generic names like small chest or jewelry box, I think, or something like that. Are any of these called jewelry box? No. They are safe storage. I think that's everything down here. Let me just take a brief look around. And I'll just find out real quick. Yeah. Oh, food cabinet. I don't remember the reasoning for that, but yeah, there's the food cabinet. I don't think that's mine. I think that came from a different mod, or at least the sort of inventory came from a different mod. I can't quite remember. Then up here, the first thing we'll see is a statue of Elysian as a different texture. This is a sort of not upscale, but it's more so like a better version of the same statue. And of course it just does the same thing, so it doesn't really matter. This came from a different mod. I forget where it came from exactly, but they just call it nightstand, so I just kept it like that. Over here, there's nothing here. Yeah. Okay, yeah. And I originally was gonna put the lucky old lady statue up here specifically, so it would be like right here, but because of the sort of the playthrough, I kind of wanted to keep it so it's visible when you come in, so that's why I put it over here rather than up there. The other placement I was going to do was right next to this, but I didn't want sort of the statues to sort of kind of collide with each other kind of thing. So if you try and do this, let's say, and you're trying to activate the lucky old lady statue, but because you came from this direction for the scroll and you're trying to activate it, and it says bank, and you're like, what? This isn't what I wanted to do. So yeah. The other thing that's over here is the altar to roll, which is pretty much just this. But originally, what this was supposed to do is that when you have the Knights of the Nine, what is it? The Knights of the Nine DLC. What this was supposed to do was so that it could bypass all of it. So you can just come here, right click, activate, and then it would say like you've worshipped on all of them pretty much. And then you could like leave, and then you'll be able to continue on like as if nothing happened. So yeah, Statue of Alchemy, yeah, those haven't changed since the last version. So this, again, this probably just, actually I get to see if it actually does change. Yeah, look at that. So there's a clear difference in this version than the other version. Yeah. And then of course, this doesn't change. Then this is just the alien well, and I'll go show this off later. That'll be the last thing that I show off right before anything else. Yeah, so that's pretty much everything on the top floor as well. Did I show the tablets? Yeah, I showed the tablets, okay. So down in the basement, there's nothing really too much different here. So we have the Way Shrine here, which is just so that if you want the Pilgrim's Grace spell, that's how you get it. Again, up there we also have, like in the second floor area kind of thing, we have a similar thing too. But yeah. And this is the Way Shrine of Cal Knight. So I kind of kept something at least from the original, but it's fine. We also have the travel chest here, which comes from a mod. We also have the sort of trash barrel kind of thing. So if you want to get rid of an item, let's say I don't want these fine steel cutlasses or these iron stuff or this steel stuff, you click on the tablet and then it just goes away. It's pretty much that. And I also changed the texture on this so that instead of red it's blue now. It looks amazing. It looks a lot better. Oh, that's an easy fix too. Huh. Yeah, so something about this version of the mod than the other ones is that this one's actually standalone, which means like this doesn't even utilize Oblivion at all. It utilizes my mods extensions of where these sort of textures are now, which is actually kind of good for me because then that means I can move it from Nehrim and Oblivion in like 2 seconds, which is amazing. But yeah, but that's kind of interesting. I'll have to figure out where the item is specifically so that way though we get this fixed. So I had a similar issue with this deer head right up here where it had a similar issue like that. And I literally went back into the Oblivion textures and I tried to figure out like why it was creating this lighting error, which I couldn't quite understand. Now that I know what I need to kind of go and end up finding that file again. And of course all of these give you all of the items that you'll ever need, books, and then quest items. So these are all the quest items you'll need in the game. If you need a certain number of them, I think a couple of these I put it as 5 for arrow of extrication kind of thing and all that stuff. And then of course all of these are whatever kind of thing. The merchant enchanted items are the items you get from merchants that are sort of custom. So not like, where is it this one? Yeah, so it's not like these items were like battle axe of absorption kind of thing. They're like sort of the one-offs kind of thing. Yeah, and then random junk. Yay. And then you have the table sets. I don't know. I just kind of wanted to put everything in here. I'm going to have one area over here probably specifically for custom ingredients. All they're pretty much going to do is they're going to do similar things from the DLC. I think Marion's Razor has something in it that I kind of want to implement. Just so that like in case nobody has Marion's Razor, you can still get at least some of the benefits kind of thing. I'm not going to put Marion's Razor, of course. That would be kind of weird. But you can already get the weapon in the game anyways. It doesn't really matter. Oh, that barrel doesn't do anything. Well, that's kind of interesting, because I thought that would have done something. Anyway, so this is pretty much the Archmage's chest. Yeah, see, so this is it. So, I said during my modded playthrough that I ended up changing the script to so though the chest cannot be interacted unless the person is the Archmage. We were playing with a mod known as Manamarco Revisited or something like that. Or there was a mod called Manamarco Revisited that added an extra function to the Archmage's sort of quarters that had a door that you can't interact with unless you're unless you are, of course, the Archmage. Now, of course, I didn't change the name of the chest yet, but as I said, though, like I was going to try and see if I can implement this to the chest so that when you come down here, you can't just, like, activate it and then get in there. So how the Archmage's chest works is that if you throw in an ingredient, so let's say I throw in this one alkanite flower in there, and I wait 24 hours. When I come back, there should be 11 of them in here. And that's pretty much all that does, though, is it just adds an extra, like, 1 in there, or it adds an extra 10 in there, which is really good whenever you're farming money, because you can also throw in vampire dust in here. Now, something that's different from my version than the vanilla version is that they both are standalone. They both don't require each other. So pretty much instead, you can throw in an item in here, wait, get 11, and then go to the Archmage's quarters, throw 1 in there, and get another 11. which means you would get 21 out of it rather than just a normal 11. So I have it in my playthrough where I can only use one or the other. So if I use the Archmages in the Archmages Tower, I can't use this one. Or I can use this one, but I cannot use the one that's over there. That's pretty much how it works. And while I was playing another mod that had a bunch of secrets, something magical actually sort of popped into my view, where it's very difficult to spot in the darkness like this, which is very nice in my opinion, because it actually makes it difficult for people to actually find it. But there's actually a lever here that actually has its name hidden. I was playing a mod that had a bunch of secret corridors and secret areas kind of thing. And one thing that actually was sort of nice about it was that it actually kept the name hidden. And I thought that was a beautiful idea. And so I ended up doing that specifically on both of the levers that sort of interact with this door. Okay, so you can't do it here. Okay, interesting. So yeah, so there's that. And of course we have the Dark King's Heart. Now, the cool thing about this item that we all pretty much know and love pretty much is that I'm just going to store this stuff in this cupboard. Why not? You take everything else but all the stuff from this mod and the ring, I guess. Just so that way it's easier just to kind of show it off as well. Yeah, I don't really think we need too much of anything else to kind of go away. So I'll just go get rid of everything. Just go really, really fast. Come on. Come on, man. Go really, really fast. And then I'll also go into more in depth of how certain items actually function in my mod. So that's gonna be pretty cool. So we have no items that should interact with this. Lockpicks don't really do anything. Torches don't do anything. This doesn't interact with it in any way, shape, or form. I can definitely tell you that off the top of my head. None of these items interact with it. So when we right-click this, it should appear in our miscellaneous item. So we should have Lockpick, Mystical Relic, Dark King's Heart, and Torch. So if we right-click, if we click E, it's now in our inventory. It's not supposed to tell you it removes it, though. Oh, that's fine. So it's not supposed to tell you that it removes itself, but pretty much what it does is that as soon as you look in your inventory, it removes itself faster than you can actually see it when it goes. And then what it does is it gives you this spell, this active effect known as Soul Link, which all it pretty much does is it will always guarantee you to always have the Conjure Thy Armor spell, no matter what. So if I were to embrace said darkness, we would have the armor as if nothing ever happened. Now, the cool thing about this sort of dark link is that as long as you have sort of the armor equipped, it won't keep adding the Conjure Armor spell. But another thing that it does is it scans to make sure that you have the complete armor. When it does give you the complete armor, it gives you the Dark King's Curse, I think it's what it's called. Yeah, the Dark King's Curse. Which, if you weren't under the birth sign of the Atronach, it actually does it here. So you have Stunted Magicka. Now, the reason why it gives the player Stunted Magicka rather than just, doing anything else is because of the fact that because its magical abilities are superb, like way too over the top, I kind of needed to nerf it in such a way. And because a lot of the spells are overpowered, look at Helping Hand, for instance. This instant kills a lot of enemies. So yeah, so we really need to kind of get it so though it's sort of that it's not overpowered, but it's overpowered enough where you just go, okay, we need to get rid of this thing real quick. So as you'll probably also know from the other version, the Conjure Thy Armor spell was actually a lesser power, something that I also wanted to mention as well. So first things first, let's go with the Armor Orb. So the Armor Orb still gives you the normal spells, Well, that's kind of weird. Should give you more than that. Okay, there we go. It just didn't register right off it just didn't register real quick. That's fine. So it pretty much already spoiled it, pretty much. So pretty much what the armor orb does now is it just increases your health, magicka, and fatigue. Nothing really too glamorous anymore. It still gives you the normal spells. But when you conjure the armor with the armor orb, or even after the fact, if you embrace the darkness, it'll actually remove any duplicate spells that it currently holds. So the only two spells that you will have after the armor orb is Invisible Advancement, because this doesn't have a duplicate of any way, shape, or form of an invisibility spell as this, not Shadow Walk. And Heal Tormented Soul, as it doesn't have a spell that's sort of the same version as this. Essence of Life kind of is, but not really to the same extent as this, and same thing as Bolster Allies, not like this as well, because this also cures them as well. So it's similar to Blessing of Heroes, but sort of under the touch sort of variant. And of course, if we unequip the orb, you will know that it gets rid of the spells as per usual. And then if we were to sort of add the orb or equip the orb right off the fact, you'll see that it gives you Invisible Advancement and Heal Tormented Soul. But that's it. This is because when you have the armor either equipped or not, it changes a variable's number so that it sort of indicates to the rest of it, okay, he has the armor on. So what the armor orb does is it detects if you have the armor on before it gives you the spells. If you have the armor equipped, it only gives you those two spells, and it sort of just ignores everything else. If you do not have the armor, it gives you all of the spells as if nothing happened. But if you use the armor while you have it equipped, it then removes all of the other spells. That's all it does. And it's pretty much more of the TLDR version, pretty much, of what it does. Anyway, so that's pretty much everything for the most part, except for a couple things as well. So one is that the armor has abandoned using the active effects as a way of doing everything. So as we will sort of show off a little bit, or as I will show off a little bit later, of the reasoning why I did this. So first things first is that I did say we were going to go through all of these, so let's go and show this off. So if you're new to Oblivion, and let's say I release a portion of this mod kind of thing, here's pretty much what I would end up doing, is I would add these sort of books into the game. Now, of course, these books into the game give you all of the current locations inside of Oblivion, all of the locations of where these certain enemies are. So if you were looking for, let's say, a goblin location that's close to the Imperial City, you can go down here and go, okay, so there's some in the sewers that I can go and fight. Like, there's the Temple sewers and the Talos Plaza sewers. Or if you want Marauder locations, Fort Strand is one that I know of right off the top of my head. Did I pass it? Fort Strand, there we go. And there was another one as well. Rockmill Cave, there we go. Rockmill Cave right here too. And then monster locations. I think what this one ends up like sort of like distinguishing it, I use a website called USIP, or that's how I pronounce it. It is the Unidentified Elder Scrolls Pages. I pretty much copy-pasted their information, changed if the location was quest-related kind of thing, and sort of the indicator that they have for a map. That's all I pretty much removed, and I just copy-pasted it and sort of spaced them out. So you're not going to get Fort Haroon, a medium-sized fort between Bruma and Cheydinhal, then literally the next line is Fort No More. So you get confused, like, wait, is it one fort or is it two? So I kind of just spaced it out like this because I think it's kind of better. And there's a bunch of monster locations. So I think what they have is that they have it specifically listed as if they are like wolves, spriggans, landro, ogres kind of thing. Like those are pretty much what they call monster locations. The necromancers pretty much says exactly what they are. They're necromancer locations. Nothing really too different about it. undead locations. This is mostly just skeletons and liches and ghosts kind of thing. And these are all the locations for them. The reason why I'm going really fast is because you can literally just look on that website and you'll know exactly like the same thing here. For vampires, I know Barren Cave, Bloodcrust Cavern, because that's part of the Mages Guild. I think Crowhaven had one. And there's also Memorial Cave, which I normally go to. Yeah. There's also bandit locations too, isn't there? Oh, yeah, here we go. Okay. So there's also conjurer locations. These are where conjurers are. I know Seatar, I think, or what is it? Seatatar. There you go. That one was actually the first alien dungeon I found on my way to I think it was Skingrad, I think. I forget. Yeah, it was on my way to Skingrad. I think that was the first alien ruin that I found on my first time playing Oblivion. Yeah, and here's all the other ones for that. Then bandit locations. There's Adatar, yeah. There's also Rockmilk Cave. There's Cursed Mine, I think. Yeah, Cursed Mine. They might not count Rockmilk Cave, but they should. Yeah. And there you go. And then alien statue locations. So if you're going to do one of the quests that is more of the side quest variety, there's one that you have to collect different alien statues. I'll always never remember where they're located. So this actually kind of helps you out too. So it tells you all of the different alien ruins that where to find them and how to detect them on your map kind of thing. Again, this also comes from USIP. So that's pretty much how I got it. And alchemy recipes. This I actually grabbed from another mod. Yeah, it's right here. Okay. So this is what he says like is all like really good like potions that he's found. So yeah. But something that I would also interject is that there's actually a apprentice level spell. Not spell, apprentice level alchemy that you can do that's actually really, really good, that you can actually use to both give yourself restore magicka, health, magicka, fatigue, and give you shield. And I have it in this sack right here. So these are the 4 ingredients for it. And that's pretty much all of that for the most part. So let's just go and store all these books in here because I do not want them in my inventory anymore. But yeah. So that's pretty much all of that nonsense done. So let's go and show off this resurrection while we also show off this armor set later on too. So let's go teleport to home, which will teleport us back. So something that I was also thinking of doing for the teleport spell, I might do it later on, is that when you go into the area, it changes a number to something else, similar to how the revert spell kind of works. So though, like, it gives you a teleport back to Tamriel sort of spell. Yeah. So let's go and kill you real quick. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use this resurrect spell. Can you get over here so we can actually see what's going on here? There we go. There we go. Okay, so what you're going to end up seeing is that you'll see that they're just getting up as if like they just got knocked down. There you go, buddy. There we go. So all it pretty much does is it pretty much just does this. It just has a visual effect added on top of that. That's all it really does. And as you'll also see, judging by our skills, you'll see that we are over 100 in every stat. This is pretty much why the armor is such like a highly valuable sort of piece of equipment in Oblivion, pretty much. I'm mostly just trying to make sure that we can actually use spells, or make sure that we can actually get like a stat up. Because this is exactly the reason why I wanted the armor sort of thing to sort of be, is that you can still get your skills up as a sort of really high level, or equivalent of a high level like sort of player, is that if your skills aren't at 100, you can still get your sort of stats up. It's just much easier because you can literally one-shot the enemy.
Muscles on you.
And something else that's also different about the sword is that I have changed a portion of what it actually does. So it actually has a script-based enchantment on it that changes, that actually has different effects. 1% of the time, it'll actually curse the opponent. Pretty much all it is it's just a weaker version of Cursed Hand. It gives them a weakness to fire, frost, and shock and magic for a short time. I think it's like 4 or 5 seconds, I think. And I think that's pretty much all it does. Okay, I'm just gonna block, literally, because I'm just trying to... Because it should give you... It should give you at least some kind of... Okay, let's see if it's even doing any experience for block. Very least, because it should. Okay, so I should get a skill sometime. There you go, see? So when it is an active effect, it pretty much prevents you from improving your skill even further. And that's kind of the thing that I wanted to sort of remove, was the fact that, like, I still wanted... like sort of our player character, or just any player character kind of thing, to still get their stats up. So that's why I added it as an enchantment rather than as a active effect. Even though you can kind of consider it that the Dark King, which is the sort of character that this is pretty much troping as, is enchanting the player with his abilities. So either way, it kind of works, either like as an active effect where it's like, oh, you're actively being the Dark King, or you're actively sort of being enchanted by his sort of heart, which is kind of cool. The other thing that I ended up implementing as well later on during sort of the whole sort of thing is that I ended up implementing a companion armor. So if you ever have a companion, you can have them equip this armor and this claymore. Now you'll probably realize that the claymore is actually a rebrand of the sort of one that I used for Battle Butler, which you're correct, because it's exactly what it is. The armor is sort of one that I grabbed from a different mod. Did I actually ever say what the sword and Battle Butler stuff is from? In case I didn't, because I don't remember actually saying anything, the vest and gloves come from Capes and Cloaks, and the pants and the shoes actually come from the base game. The light brown linens and the gold trim shoes, I think? Or maybe it's also Capes and Cloaks special shoes kind of thing. I'm not quite sure. This blade right here comes from a blade known as, I think, Seraphim Blade, I think is what it's called. I can be wrong on that. I know I have a bunch of sword mods that I kind of used. And this one, and this armor actually is the Morgan's armor, I think is what it's called, or Morgan's armor. I don't know how exactly it's phrased as. But pretty much it only has like one kind of crucial function, is that it's a light armor, so your companions or you kind of thing don't get burdened by the speed of anything. I may add a fortified speed to it, so though your companions can kind of keep up with you, kind of thing. Kind of helps with those slow companions, and if your companion is fast, they'll kind of be at your side all the time. So a couple things as well is that, like, this armor has a kind of a little bit of history to it. So I had two companions from two different mods that I had, and one of them already had this armor as their own sort of like armor, sort of like usage kind of thing. So I decided to make a companion or sort of my mod version of that armor, so though like I could like not judge, but I could end up making it so though they get like either better skills or that they get better stats from it, or that like I can change a little bit of anything. So one thing that I implemented was a script that would end up giving them a good healing spell, a good offensive spell, and a summon spell. And when I gave it to the first companion, they never used it, which was kind of odd to me. But I kind of just went, maybe that companion was only geared to be a warrior, where they don't use spells at all. They kind of just use only their sort of sword kind of thing. So I went, okay, that's fine. So I ended up giving my second companion the sort of same treatment. But this one was a CM Partners version, which you can change their sort of battle type kind of thing. So you can change them into Battle Mage or whatever you want kind of thing. So I ended up changing them into sort of that Battle Mage format, and I gave them the armor as well, so hoping that they would end up using it. They didn't. And I kind of wondered if it was the way that the armor was adding it, because I always used the player.add spell kind of thing on the armor scripts. So I found a way to change it so though it would kind of so the script would actually try and identify what the actor is, or it would kind of give a special term for the actor, and it would give the special term of the actor the spell. So what it does is it just scans the current like user of the armor and gives them the spell, pretty much. So they don't have to be a player, but they can be like any sort of companion. Which, and I know they had it because there was a mod, I forget what mod it was, that you can literally like scan their sort of current spells, and they had them. They literally had them, but they just never used them, which is kind of weird. And something that I might add in a future update kind of thing, or a future thing, is that since I think that we can actually kind of do it, what I was thinking of doing was adding a NPC in the island area, where they would sort of interact with the island, or they would sort of interact here, kind of prepare like almost like they're preparing the food for you, and here's a bed for them to sleep in, and they would sort of kind of keep the cobwebs out of everything, which would be kind of cool. And if anybody knows anything about sort of like scripting NPCs in this game, please let your voice be heard kind of thing, because I would actually love to implement it. And I would also love to implement a sort of fighting companion for the player kind of thing, so you can like recruit them, or even have it so though the person that's normally here, you can recruit them as sort of your travel companion kind of thing. I think that would be kind of cool. So yeah, that's pretty much everything for the most part. I'll fix the shield thing that's down here. That's not an issue as well. That'll definitely be fixed. I'll definitely be adding the Fighters Guild and the other guilds as well, and maybe a few extras kind of thing. Maybe. I don't really know. But something that I also wanted to kind of add as well. Yeah, see, so there's candles up here now, so it creates light over here. So now it's more brighter in here rather than being dark. Oh yeah, something else that I wanted to mention before we ended off is that there's going to be sort of a ledger over here somewhere, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'll keep it somewhere. Maybe I'll keep it in like a book stacker here or something. I don't know. But I'm going to keep something sort of somewhere here where it's going to be a ledger of each and every mod playthrough that we do, and when we sort of need to, so whenever somebody, let's say, wants to play I don't know, I'm going to use my mod as this case. So let's say my mod, you require 5,000 gold in order to buy the house kind of thing. What you would need to do is you would need to go and get so it would say like gold required to start 5,000 gold, and you go, okay, so you need 5,000 gold in order to begin this sort of like adventure kind of thing, or to begin this sort of mod, which would be kind of a cool experiment to kind of do, which I would kind of actually love to do. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. There's nothing really too much else. Also, as I said in one of the previous other versions, this will have sort of a trinket from each and every mod. There's one mod that's sort of kind of not really on my radar because I already have a couple things specifically from it. Oh, I should go by the history of this too. Yeah, so like this one and this one have already come from a different mod, like a quest mod kind of thing, so it kind of seems like it defeats the purpose, but it gives other cool items too, so I might implement them in here specifically because I think it should fit really well with the theme of this room. So it's not like it's going to be that big of a deal, so I think it should be relatively nice to kind of have it. So the history of this, okay. So I'm going to go through that and then that'll be it. So the history of this spell right here, did I give myself it or did I not? No, I implemented from the activator, that's right. So this spell right here, I've had a hard time trying to do it. So this mod originally had 3 different storage spells. It had the cache in the chest from the last mod that the last version that I showed, and it has the travel chest, which is from this version and onward. So the travel chest is literally this. The cache and the chest are literally inside of here. So here's the chest, and I think the travel or the cache is, yeah, the star chest is right here. Yes, there's cache. Alright, so anytime you're trying to activate any of those, you get that. So pretty much what I tried to do is I tried to make it so that no matter what, you can interact with it similar to how the normal chest is. Now, there becomes a problem when you need to activate, when you try to put 3 different ones, but have a button attached to it. So when you try and implement a button system, so similar to this, if I click on cache, nothing would happen. Nothing. So, and if I tried to click on chest, nothing would happen. And if I tried to click on travel chest, nothing would happen. Now, when you go into the cell, so when you go into here kind of thing, it works. Why? I have no idea. So what this spell actually originally did was that it activated this switch right over here, which then what this switch would do is that it would activate each and every chest for you. Now, I sort of had to abandon that because, as unfortunate as it is, you can't activate an activator without actually like sort of clicking E on it. And I tried to sort of implement it so it's kind of in here, but for some reason, whenever I tried to make it so that it wasn't, I'll toggle light bright, I apologize for it being too bright. When I tried to make it so that it was sticking out of the wall just a little bit without actually like sort of making it look like it's not attached to it at all, you can't interact with it. Like every time you tried to click on it to sort of interact with it, so it was kind of different than these ones, because these ones you can't really see that they're off the wall a little bit maybe. Now, see, they're off the wall, just like a sliver of the chance. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, but like you can't interact with them like similar like these ones, so I was trying to figure it out exactly why. I made it smaller so that it was harder to sort of detect on the pillar, but yet it wasn't working to the same extent that I wanted it to. So I looked and looked and I tried to figure out exactly why. It's because you can't activate an activator without being in the same cell, which is why being in here, I can interact with it. But being out into the normal world, you can't. So I changed this. I kept it here as sort of a reminder of that sort of failure kind of thing. And I added another activator that's sort of in here and invisible, and a return point for it. So what it does is it actually, before it even moves, or before you can even interact with the sort of activator, what it does is it moves the activator to you, to your current position. And then what it does is that it then makes you activated. Since now the activator is in the same cell as you, you can actually interact with it. And so what else you can also do with it is the fact that now that it has a return point, it'll always return to the same exact point that it is under. So it's kind of cool. So pretty much no matter where you are, so even if you were out here, you can interact with it before, but now you can, because it moves the activator to you. Then after you close it, it's gone. It goes right back to where it was. Either that, or it didn't add a return function and it just stays there. But I think what it does is it does the same sort of glitch that the teleport spell does. I think there is a way to fix it, but I kind of just like the way that it is, because it kind of just makes me not want to sort of like stay here, save, and then sort of just stay here as forever kind of thing. So what the teleport spell does is it actually has a marker here that where you get teleported, which is why you've always faced this direction. Now, one of the first issues that I had was that I put both markers here, so that way though, but one of them would always move to the player first, that way though, no matter where you cast the spell, you would always reappear where you casted it. And so, what I had to do was that, I don't know why this is a thing, but I think because this counts as a world space rather than a cell, it broke, like, sort of, it kind of broke a little bit. So when I moved it to about, I think it's like literally in the bed. I moved the invisible marker into the bed, the one that moves to the player, and then all of a sudden now it works. Like, it'll even work in world spaces, which I kind of got confused of, and I went, why is this a thing? But it kind of got fixed. But one of the problems that you will have, though, and this is actually, I'm thinking more of I think I'm going to make it more of an intended feature, is that do not save in this world. If you save in this world and you try to use the teleport spell, you will be teleported back. I think you have to close the game for it. Give me a second. Let's go see if we can show it off.
Hello.
Yeah, I think you have to close the game for it to actually work. But pretty much when you click it, you would still stay in the same position as if nothing happened. Then you click it again, you get teleported here. Then when you click it again, you appear right back to where you were as if nothing happened. Also, I found this out while I was sort of still working on making this standalone. You cannot activate spells while on a stool. I did not know that. I don't think I've ever tried it though. I think that's the whole thing, whole point of that. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. So that's pretty much it for the entire mod. As I said, I still have a bunch of plans for the weapon. Or for like this mod in general. Like, there was one plan I had for the conjured, or for the sword. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't think I explained how the random one worked. Okay, so I'll explain it real quick though. So the random enchantment real fast is that it has a 25% chance of disintegrating armored weapons by a certain number. I think I have it as, I think 35 points each and every time. It has a 5% chance, or I think 4, I think, or something like that. 4% chance of paralyzing the target. So that kind of removes the whole paralysis sort of function of it, pretty much. So it doesn't always like paralyze the target, kind of thing. Which I will make another weapon in here specifically just to show off how certain boss battles are, kind of thing. Maybe, I don't know. And the last one of the 1%, of course, is Cursed Hand, which is just a weaker version of this one, with a much weaker sort of duration, but more so just towards the fact that like it can actually like completely and utterly destroy like a bosses, kind of thing. And each and every one of them has a different sound effect, which I will of course make standalone, so it doesn't require Oblivion for those. And one kind of function that I wanted to do for the armor is going to be slightly different. I just need to know how to kind of script it to the way that I want it to, and then it'll be good to go. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. I don't really think there's too much of anything sort of to say about it. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this sort of Oblivion mod sort of showcase kind of thing of my mod and its different versions. One of the sort of scrapped things of the original one, actually, while we're on topic of old mods or all the versions of it, one of the old ones was an arena. I think I sort of glossed over it a little bit at the beginning of this video, where you were supposed to fight the original owner and then be able to get their weapons and armor. That was sort of going to be an arena style, and it was going to be sort of like really good implementation kind of thing. It was going to be really fun to sort of make, but that sort of got scratched because I couldn't get any help specifically on making it. And anytime I tried to ask anyone for that help, I kind of just got like ignored for about like 2-3 months, and I went, okay, I'm done. I don't want to work on it anymore. Nobody's really helping me, like, because I didn't know how to sort of script it, so I didn't really know. But it's a scrap thing now. I'm not going to do it anymore. I think it would have been a cool idea of how to actually get the like the set armors. Like, imagine getting this, actually defeating the person who originally held it, which would be kind of cool. But yeah, that is it for the Oblivion special. Officially this time, I'm actually done now. So I'll see you guys for another great year of this. I don't know when this is going out. I'm going to be recording a Minecraft sort of thing of a history of something as well. So I don't know if this one's going to go before that one or after. And I think I'm going to say the same thing on that video too, because I don't really know. It usually depends on like how long they upload for. Because if this one takes longer, then this one will obviously go last, or Minecraft will, I don't know. I probably won't explain the exact same thing, but at least if this one's last, you'll know why this one's last. So yeah, I'll see you guys next year for some more content.